Hello lovely people, I'm K3N and welcome to the first episode of Wonky Wednesday, I can't even say it. I've posted a few videos on Wednesdays about log cabins and wonky log cabins and how I make them and so on, and there's a whole playlist. And the final 3 videos I think were the making of this little journal, and now I want to do some sort of kind of exploratory play work in it. Play work, is that a thing? Exploring log cabins as many different ways I can think of. And so that aspect of Wonky Wednesday will be just for fun, for journaling, for exploration, for playing and so forth. Also here and there interspersed liberally throughout the series will be more kind of, you know, how to make things using log cabin related things. So things I anticipate coming up will be maybe making a table runner or a cushion cover or something like that with the wonky log cabin blocks that I've shown earlier in this series. I also want to explore Manx quilting, which is related to log cabins and which I just love. But I want to make something myself first before I come on here and, you know, tell you about it. But that will be coming soon because I'm keen to try that. So anyway, so today, since it's page 1 of the journal, I think I'm going to just do a little log cabin block to go in the journal. And a little while ago, a lady called Machtelt, whose channel is called A Daily Dose of Paper, and she's following along with the weekly Slow Stitch project on a Monday, did a paper log cabin, and that's inspired me enormously, and I've been wanting to try it since I saw it. So I'm going to do one, but I'm going to do it half paper and half cloth. So instead of the dark and the light, you know, in a usual log cabin layout like this, I'm going to do all the same colour palette, but one section paper and one section cloth. And a few people have said in the comments, oh, it's so beautiful, it's a shame to cover up. If I have a page here, like this first page, which is beautiful, I'm not going to work directly onto it. I'm going to work directly onto something else. And I've got a bit of book page here, but, you know, another piece of paper. And then I'm going to stitch it on or stick it on or do something, maybe stick it on, maybe with masking tape or just something. So then you've got your piece here when we've made it, and I eventually get round to it and stop wittering. So you'll have your piece, but then you can flip it and still see the loveliness underneath. So, you know, if you've got a journal with lovely pages you don't want to cover, you can work around that. Also, it's easier to work on a separate thing and then put it in afterwards. So I shall set the journal to one side and just talk you through what you'll need if you want to follow along. So I've got a little square. I have no clue what size it is. It's just the right size for my journal. I shall tell you it's 4 inches-ish square. And I have a lot of book pages because I use book covers for journal making and so on. If you don't, you can just take any paper. I am going to stitch in it, so I've never yet really found a paper that can't be stitched. I wouldn't take something really thick because that's not nice, and then you have to poke with an awl to make holes and so on. But if you've got some scraps of, you know, scrap paper, you can always get an empty needle and have a little try and make sure that it takes stitching without tearing and it's not uncomfortable. So you need a foundation square. And then I've got here 2 piles, and I've got my scissors on the relevant sides, so I hopefully don't mix them up, and use my fabric scissors for paper. So I've got all kinds of scrap, packaging paper. I've got offcuts of the pages from that journal, the rust and tea dyed paper. That's a bit of corrugated packaging. I tore the outer layers off a bit. That's a bit of, excuse me, greaseproof paper, you know, baking parchment. I think it's been in some sort of eco-print at some point. I've got trimmings from book pages. That's something that was printed out on copy paper. I think it was some musical notes. You know, I've got tearings out of my own old notebooks, sketchbooks. Sorry, I think I just whistled at you. Didn't mean to. Bit of old music paper. You know, just paper. Some book page with some writing on that side and the edge of a picture on that side. You know, just basically get some paper. All kinds of scrap. I did look at some magazine pages and I would have included some, but they're shiny under the light, but you know, you can absolutely use magazines or whatever. And then cloth, I've just got a pile here of the same colours, like I said, or non-colours, just a mixture of things. Invariably there's eco prints invariably, inevitably. But then there's a bit of sort of Hessian-y type stuff. There's a more open weave cotton. There's some silk, some sari silk. That's a bit of vintage backing off something. I tore the cloth off the front to use that was patterned, and that's the back, which is nice and grungy. So because I was going with the same colour, I've looked more for different textures, you know, so there's some interest. So I've got that and that. I've got also a needle and thread standing by. I've got my fabric scissors and my paper scissors. I've got my glue book, as if I'm a proper journaler, which is just an old text block for gluing on, and when that's gluey you turn the page. I just discovered this. I think it's the most brilliant idea. You know, it's probably been around for yonks, but it's new to me, so I feel all like a professional journaler with my glue book. And I've just got a glue stick. This is just a cheapy glue stick from the local shop. I think that's it. Yep, I think that's all we need. Now for my hearth, instead of red, I found in my scraps this little bit of purple silk. Can you see it? It's just a lovely colour purple. And I just think it's really nice with the, hoping it's not going blurry, with the, you know, with the natural colours of the other bits. So I'm going to use that as my centre. I've never done this before in my life, you know, while I've stuck things onto, you know, things. I've done similar things. I've done cloth weaving, cloth and paper weaving, but I've never done this actual thing. I'm just going to use tiny little bits of the glue, because it's basting it, because I'm going to stitch it. So I don't want to make it too gluey so that it's not nice to stitch through. And then I'm obviously going to cover up this book page, but on the other side I liked that side more, so that's why I've decided to go on this side, because that side obviously will stay revealed. So I'm just going to work round, basically, fiddling about, tearing bits of paper, tearing bits of cloth, having raggedy edges, overlapping, just as if I'm making a log cabin. I'm going to use my glue book so I look all professional. Oh, now, the trouble is I can be here for hours deciding which side. I'll have that's the first side that I went with. Just a little tiny smear, just to hold it while you go. And I'm just overlapping as if I was, you know, making a log cabin, which I am. And I'm just picking, see, that's got my own handwriting on. It's just from a book where I was making notes about, I'll just check, what am I doing? Parallel lines of running stitch following the curve of a section. No clue what I was doing. I was obviously making notes about something. So I'm going to stick that on. Trim it off first. I've also got here, I'll put those bits in it, I have this basket that I made the same way as the cloth twining, but with string that I bought. And that's all my little bits and bobs, you know. I have scrap baskets of paper in the same way that I do cloth. Pretty much organised by size. So that's my two paper sides. And like I said, as long as they stay there, for now, that's good enough. So now I need something clothy. I've got this bit of, I think that's been in tea, vintage trim of something with some lace on. That might be quite nice because then the text will show through the lace. Stell, stop licking your feet. Sorry, she still needs to go to the trimmers. I've buried my scissors now. Stells! Sorry, I have to tell her, otherwise she keeps on going and makes herself sore. Because she needs to go to the trimmers, she's a cockapoo. She's got very hairy feet at the moment, like a Grinch. And I'm going to put the glue on there now because it's easier than putting it on the cloth. And then when she goes in the woods, her feet get all matted, you know, with the soil when it's wet and so on. And then she licks them to get the... Do you want to know this? I've started telling you, so I better finish. She licks them to get the soil and the, you know, the mats out of her feet, but then she goes on and on. So I always tell her not to. This is just a grungy bit of something, off something, you know. But you save all these little, you know, a lot of people would throw that away, but that's a lovely little interesting bit of cloth, and I actually want this bit this bit, but I want it narrower. So I'm going to try and tear it. It won't tear. Well, it might tear, but it might not tear the way I want it to tear, so I'm going to cut, because the edge where I'm cutting is going to get covered up anyway. I have to decide. Do I have it like that? So I'm going to then cut that bit off. So I'm just working round and round, just, you know, like you would do if you were stitching, only I'm at first gluing. There we go. I think I'll leave that because that'll overhang whatever comes next and look jaunty. Turn, and now we're back to paper. Oh, I didn't go far enough there now, did I? Oh dear, that was silly. It's because I wasn't paying attention. Because that paper blends to that paper, so I didn't see. Well, no matter, we'll just, where's the bit I cut off? We'll just stick something else there as well. Maybe we'll just, instead of trying to match it with the same thing, maybe we'll just put something completely different there and acknowledge our mistake, because it's not a mistake. Maybe put a bit of that. Oh, that's got, see these tiny weeny little bits, do you see that? It's just the very end of something hanging on by one stitch. Sorry about my inky fingers. I don't have to apologise for inky fingers when I'm journaling, because most journalists who I've seen on YouTube have got inky, painty fingers. It's just when I'm, you know, doing the slow stitch, I think my hands should be reasonably clean. But I'm going to stop going on about my hands because nobody seems to mind. Right, there we go. Yeah, that's nice. I'm happy I did that now, you see, I've made myself happy. So I'm back to paper. I got way more paper than I need. This is a bit of end paper of an old book. I want that in there. Make sure I go right to that. Don't use your fabric scissors for paper. Oh. Actually, I'm just going to tear it. That's the best way, isn't it? Not to use scissors at all, just tear. Yeah, that was behind my granny's, if you watched Valentine's Week. And the slow stitch. That was an end paper from an old book that I put behind the picture of my two grannies. And there was a torn edge, so I've made sure I've got the torn edge, you know, here, and the cut edge will be covered. I just like the torn edges more round. And now we need paper. This is fun. I've already had music paper. Do I want more music paper? Or do I want something different? How about a bit of the eco print? Yes, we're going to do that. I might even tuck it under there. Why not? Nobody's telling us we can't. On the glue book. Oh, now that side's nice as well. No, I think I'll stick with my original side. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I tried to put you in a bit lower, but the problem is I keep banging my head on the light and making you wobble. So I think this is the optimum height. So now I'm back to cloth. What shall we have? What shall we have? I would quite like to make bigger ones of these, or make 4, you know, to do a 4 like on the front of the journal. You imagine that in paper and cloth to make a wall hanging. I think that would be quite nice. How about some of this silky silk? It's got writing on it as well. Well, it's got writing on it. It's got a lovely frayed edge. I'm going to have some of that. Where's my scissors? Snip. This is silk Dupion, and it does tear, but then it does that, you see? You lose loads and loads of thread when it tears. Which go in the aughts. No, I wanted that little fluffy bit left out, didn't I? I've made that a bit wide. I think I want it to be a bit narrower. The problem is now when I tear it, I think I'm just going to cut it because I'm going to cover it up with something else. Because I'm worried if I tear it that, you know, it'll disintegrate. Oh, this is such fun. Thank you so much, Machtel, for making me think of this. Right, I'm going to have it like that because I wanted all that long fraying coming down for the texture. Trim and trim, and then I'll stick. Teeny tiny scraps can live there. Again, I'll put a little bit of glue on the book page, not on the cloth, because it's easier. I'll put a link to Machtel's log cabin if you haven't seen it, so you can go and have a look. Right, cloth again. Cloth again. What should we have? Quite fancy some of that sari silk. Quite a long bit. I think there's a join somewhere, because this wouldn't be lovely for cloth twine. But you know, I'm only going to cut a little bit off. I mustn't hoard things. But it's not really hoarding if you think that would be better served for that. But sari silk's joined usually there, look, you see. That's, oh no, is that a join? No, that's not a join. Oh, just cut some off, Catherine. So honestly, sometimes I annoy myself. I hope I don't annoy you. I'll say it's quite wide, but I might use it double. So it needs to be there. And again, I'm going to cut it so it doesn't shred. And fold it in half. That bit there is a bit ugly. There's nice fraying and ugly fraying to me. And just judge by whether I like the look of it or not. That little bit coming out. I'll make sure he doesn't get buried. You might need another stitch in him. Yeah, I'm just going to stick it down folded, and then later when I come to stitch it I'll sort out the fold stays. And glue stick, I find if I'm just sparing with it and I wait for it to dry, and it dries pretty quick, probably by the time I'm finished it'll be dry. It's fine to stitch through for this. I don't use it if I'm doing, you know, if I can use pins, I use pins, or if I can get away with nothing, I'll get away with nothing. But, so I don't, some people use it on cloth, which, you know, if you want to do that, you go for it. But for this, I didn't really see another option, so that's why I'm using glue. What about this crinkliness? Quite like that you can see the texture. I don't know if you can. Can you see? I think you can, because it's translucent. But it's all different along its length. Oh, I'm going to go for that bit. Oops. Quite soft, this glue stick. You have to be careful, otherwise, excuse me, a big blob comes off. So I'm to the edge now. Do I want to be? I think I'm going to just slightly overlap the edge so as not to be too pristine. But obviously, if you want to be pristine, you be pristine. Especially if your name's Christine. Sorry. Oh dear. Oh, sometimes my brain. Now I do like that bit. And that just seems to want to go there, so that's where it's going. I'm just going to tear that off first. If you were really, you know, a journaler and you were into things, you could ink the edges of your little strips when you tore them as well. I'm mad inking things. Inking, it's kind of, I have, once I start inking, I'm inking everything in sight. I don't know what it is about inking, and I don't think I'm the only one. And I shouldn't really be gluing close to the edge on my lovely green cloth. I nearly got that away and just had the cutting mat, but I know that most of you, or everybody who said anything, likes the green cloth and not the loud banging noises when I drop my scissors and things like that. So again, I'm just going to overlap that slightly. Now we need more cloth. Oh, I can sit here all day making these, if only I didn't have other things I want to do. Ah, Auntie Lily's pillowcase. It really was only one pillowcase. And that is a bit of the end of it, with a bit of embroidery. But it seems to crop up in nearly everything I make. That's definitely going there. I'm going to cut it because I know from experience that it's fragile and it might tear the wrong way. See, that paper's lifting up, but it doesn't matter. Stay. Oh, mustn't be too violent with the table because it'll make you wobble. The clamp is on the table. I've got no other way of putting it, so I just have to try and remember not to make the table rock. There we go. So now I just need one more bit of cloth. Here we go, the final piece. Always takes me a while. Although today, maybe, let's see, maybe I'm going to go with this bendy bit of hessian with the lines in, yes, because they kind of go with the silk. Trouble is it's really crumpled and could do with an iron. But you know me and the iron are not friends. I really want it there, I think. I'm going to cut it because it doesn't really tear very well. And in one of the weeklies, I think it was a bit of silk that I licked and ironed against the edge of the table. Well, I don't really think that would work with hessian. So I'll try it without the... Sorry, I'll probably make you wobble. I'm just rubbing it against the edge of the table to try and flatten it out a bit. I could get my little spray bottle of water and do it, but I'm just going to embrace the fact that it's actually... Do you know what I'm going to do? Instead of that, I'm going to do this and make it even more scrunchy, like it's on purpose scrunchy. Yeah, that's better. And stick that on there like that. Or do I want it the other way around? Yes, I want it the other way around. I'm going to put slightly more glue because it's quite thick. Put the lid on because I think that's it for the gluing. And hold it up so that I can see it and so that you can see it. Oh yes, oh I'm loving that. There you go, can you see it? Just tap you so you focus. No, it's focused on my scissors. Sorry, I'm new to this tapping. My daughter told me about it. There, has it focused now? Yep. So although the colours are the same, because the paper and the cloth have different textures, you've still got that contrast, which is exactly how it looked in my head. And it's always nice when it comes out how it looks in your head. So all I'm going to do now is do some stitching into it. And I've got pre-threaded this, was the closest I could find to that purple. It's actually a bit more red, but you know, it'll do pig. And I have no preconceived ideas about what I'm going to do. I think I might do just some straight stitches into the paper and then some more organic stitches, not sure what yet, into the cloth. So I'm just going to come through from the back into the first paper log. Now sometimes you can, I think I'm just going to do big wonky stitches. I'm not going to try and stitch straight or anything. Yeah, I was going to say sometimes you can go in and out, you know, as if you were stitching cloth, but that's more likely to cause ripping. So I'm just going to chicken stitch. Chicken stitch is what we in my community, if you don't know, now call stab stitching, because a lady in the comments a couple of weeks ago said that her grandmother used to call it peck and scratch stitch or something like that. So now we call it chicken stitch. Do you see I'm just deliberately wonking about? Wonking about I am. And that's... I might do one more down there because it's kind of becoming a big seed stitch, but I'm just going with the flow. And don't you love the sound of the thread running through paper? I do. I might here go, after saying I was going to do straight lines, I'm doing anything but. If you're really worried when stitching paper about where you're coming up, because obviously once you make a hole in paper, there's a hole, you can't get rid of it. What you can do, I'll show you in a second. Okay, so now I want to come up here. So I can make a hole this way, and then I'll look on the back, find the hole, and come through it. You know, if you're not worried, just poke it through and see where it comes out. But if you did want it to come out in a certain place, that's how you can make sure it does. I'm going to do slightly smaller stitches here and go back to my original plan. If you've never stitched paper, do give it a try. I know many of you are stitching your journal, your Monday pieces into paper journals. But to stitch paper to paper is also fun. I'm going to come up to here, and I think I'm going to do some, what shall I do? What shall I do? Tell me, shout. You're shouting, but I can't hear you, unfortunately. I'm going to just do running stitch. When in doubt, do running stitch. I'm going to just try and see. Oh yeah, you see it does work. Normal stitching. Also, it helps that I'm on the edge, that I can just bend rather than fold the paper slightly. Whoopsie. Picked up a bit of Hessian. But you see there's no issue at all stitching through the glue stick. I don't think I'd use PVA or anything like that for this. I don't think it's necessary apart from anything else, but I think it's not nice to stitch through because it dries hard. It's got a, you know, do you know what I mean? I've stitched through PVA by accident if I've made book spines, you know, and stitched them with PVA and then wanted to stitch into them afterwards. Now this paper here feels slightly more fragile because it's old book page, but it's thicker. That was greaseproof paper or baking parchment. So I've gone back to my chicken stitches. I felt you not, you naughty. Oh dear. That's alright. It's got. Now I've done this, I'm feeling like I want to do light coloured stitches on the other side instead of carrying on with the dark. I think I will. Now to knot on the back, what I do is because it's paper you can't do back stitches or anything, I just go in behind the previous stitch and then I go through again and then I do the double loop and then pull it up. Oops, not like that. Don't do it like that. Now it's, there we go. And you can take another needle actually and put it in the knot and push it down. Or just do it with your finger. And if you're still worried about it, you can always just stick a little piece of masking tape over it and it'll stay put. Yeah, I do think I'm going to do some... I'm actually feeling I need to do more stitching down here now. I just can't let it alone. I think I might turn those into crosses. Just these 3. So then I'm going to do this trick of poking through from the front and then coming through the hole from the back. And unthreading my needle in the process. Oh, sorry. Oh, croaky voice this morning. It's quite early in the morning, in my defence. But I was awake early and I've done all my chores of feeding horses and walking dogs and getting the kitchen range going and feeding dogs and feeding Fred and doing my washing up from last night because I was a slob and didn't do it. I've done all that stuff already and now I'm sitting here doing this. Yeah, I'm liking those. Looking for my little hole on the back. I'm sorry you couldn't see a thing, but I'm sure you get the idea. I just about got away with that bit of thread. Yeah, just what it needed, I think. Now I'm going to finish my thread off, so I'm just going to go behind a nearby handy stitch once, and then go through the same stitch again. It's just a matter of, you know, there are many ways of doing it. And push the knot down as far as I can. Whoops, and then do it again. Last time I did it twice through the same loop and I got into a knot, so that's why I'm doing it that way. And leave a bit of a tail, and you know. I do actually quite like how the back is just random, it's just where I went. Okay, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I wish in a way that I had done cream stitches all over and not the red, but that's okay because I can always do another one and you know, an experiment, and that's what this journal is all about. I'm now looking for some cream. I don't have any, I have to use this, my precious silk. But it's what it's for, so there's no point in hoarding it, is there? This was given to me by a friend of mine. It's separated at the end. I don't even like to cut off a millimetre so that I can thread it in my needle. What I could have done is cut off a long piece and then threaded it from the other end. But I didn't want to waste that last little bit. Right. So what am I going to do over there now? I think I might do some French knots, just randomly scattered about. 2, 3. I might do some deliberately loopy French knots. So what I do there is I pull it, but not proper tension. Just leave it loopy, and then anchor it. Do you see? And you get this loopy effect. So I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, and then go back in somewhere near where I came out. And then I'm not pulling that up firmly like you normally would when you make a French knot. I'm just going to leave it loopy, and then stitch through, and you get these little, you know, curly cues, whatever you want to call them. I might go over that edge just to see what happens. Just in the interest of what if, and you can go really, you know, I'm going to leave that really loopy just to see. And now I've got a complete loop and another smaller loop. But that's what's lovely about these journals, whether they're stitch journals, art journals, paper journals, whatever. You can just play. And you can learn things that you like and that you don't like on a small, manageable scale, and enjoy yourself while you're doing it. And then you can think, I like that. Next time I make a thing, you know, make a thing, I can do that. Or you can say, well, I didn't really like that, so I won't do that again, but, you know, it's there in my journal and I've learned from it. So all I'm going to do is just weave about the place, doing my little loopy-doops of different sizes. I'm wrapping 3 times every time, but I'm just varying how much I pull the end. So some I'm doing quite neat in inverted commas, and others I'm leaving really loopy. I nearly said mega loopy, but I'm not a teenager, so I won't. That seems to me to be a teenager thing to say everything's mega, or it's probably way out of date now. But I'm quite an old person, so. And I'm just going to make sure that there's some stitching somewhere in all of the cloth from a functional point of view to hold it on. But I'm not really worried because it's going in a journal, and if things come unstuck, you can always stick them again. One, two, three. Whoops. Well, it's going to be really loopy now because I had to do that. No, you see, it all turned out fine in the end. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was my tummy if you heard it. I have had breakfast. I didn't have a lot to. It was a bit early, you know. My tummy wasn't fully awake. So I just had a little sweet roll with some homemade jam on it. And that was it. So I will be having 11's today, or as hobbitses do, her second breakfast. Hobbits always have 2 breakfasts. Can I get one more out of this? I'm going to go through there. See, now I've done this, I'm really not liking that red at all, that red stitching. And I really want to take it out. And I could take it out and then just go back through the same holes with this cream. Can I get yet one more, or am I really pushing my luck? I'm really pushing my luck. But I'm going to push my luck anyway. Since I'm not worrying about tensioning my knot, it'll go where it goes. Right, finish that off. See, that's an example, that red thread, of how it seemed a good idea in my head, but when I see it in reality, because I thought it would pick up on the purple in the middle, I don't often take things out, but I think I'm going to. I'm going to do a few more here first, French knots, the loopy knots. I don't think really we can grace them with the name of French knots. And I think I'm going to get that red away. Whoops. Which will be fine, and then all I'll do is go back through the same holes with the cream thread, probably making exactly the same stitches but with the cream thread. I'll do a few more of these first. I think I'm going to just leave that lace, it's glued there, and I'm stitching down the actual cloth that it's attached to, so Oh dear. Please be nice to me. There we go. Got caught on one of the yeah, it just got caught on one of the threads out of that bit of linen. But it went okay in the end. I persuaded it gently. 1, 2, 3. See, all they're doing now is just adding texture, and I like that. I'm just going to do a couple more up there. They're not fighting with they're enhancing the texture that's already there. They're not fighting with what's already there. Whereas I think my dark red stitching on the other side is fighting with what's already there. So I'm wondering even actually, do you know what I am thinking now? It's not even the cream, but a sort of tan coloured thread. Because I don't really want texture here, because that's the contrast is that there's texture and less texture. Thinking. Well, I'll leave that attached and I'll get my thread out, and I'll probably edit out me getting the thread out. I don't think you want to watch me doing that, or maybe you do, but you know, I don't want these videos to start turning into massive great long ones. So I'll do that and then I'll come back. Okay, I've done that and I'm much happier with that gone. On some of the older softer papers, when I kind of just did this with my thumbnail, the holes did disappear. It's just on these new, you know, new paper, that was rust printed, but it was sketchbook, and this from my notebook, then the holes do stay. What I could do, if I decided I really didn't want to stitch here at all, is just poke some more holes to make it look intentional, or stick something else over it, or, you know, just leave it like that and call it done. But I do think I do want to try stitching into the paper, but I've got this cream still attached, so I'm going to, I think I might just stitch into this white or whiter section and see how that looks to start with. And I'm just going to, and they're into one of the existing holes. If I can see the holes, I'm going to stitch into them. If I can't see the holes, then I'm going to say, well, it's fine, I can't see it, so you understand what I mean. There I see a hole, so I'm going to use it. And then into this I can clearly see the holes everywhere, so I'm going to look on the back, sorry, that one I think. This now reminds me of, I don't know if you can still get those, when I was younger, I think it was probably the first sewing I ever did. It was like a card with holes punched in, and you didn't have a needle, you had things that looked like shoelaces. So they had an end wrapped, a wrapped end, so that you could poke it in the holes, and there was a picture printed on the card. I seem to remember that we had a penguin, amongst other things. And I say we, my grandmother, I'm an only child, I don't have brothers or sisters, but my grandmother always had a toy box in the cupboard under the stairs. And so it was me and my cousins, and these things were in that toy box. And I think I remember a penguin, I don't remember any of the other designs. But do you know what I mean? So there's an outline of a penguin punched in holes and the picture of the penguin, and then you wove the shoelacy type thing through the holes. That's probably the first sewing I ever did. Anyway, this just reminded me of it. No, I don't want to go up there, I want to go over there. Oops, that's much better. I'm much happier with that. I'll go there somewhere. Yeah, I'm much happier with that. But I do want to do something along here. Do I want to put a line of this? Am I overthinking it? Yes, I am. I'm going to go over there and make myself a hole. Oh no, in the wrong hole. you know, after me talking all about being free and playing and all that, I'm now trying to make this perfect, or, you know, so that I'm perfectly happy with it. But apparently that's what I need to do, so, you know, it's what I'm doing. I think I was just so happy with how that little journal turned out that I just want to put nice things in it, or things that I think are nice. That is why there's a thing, I can't remember what it's called, a dump book I think they call it. An artist dump book, something like that, I might be wrong. But and it has to kind of by definition be something really like just a load of packaging paper stitched together roughly or something like that, where you're not precious and you just can dump ideas. It makes you work more freely. There, yeah, that's okay. Now, and I don't need to stitch that because the holes have disappeared all but, and it's more or less glued on, and I don't want to stitch that because I like that the words show through. So I'm done. So I'm going to finish that off next to that stitch which is nearest to it. So pull it through and then go through again, try not to split my thread, otherwise it won't tighten. And go through the loop. This is silk, so it's very slippery. Come on, gravity, help me out. I think that's good enough. Okay, so now it can go in my journal. Yeah, I'll show you. Focus, focus, focus. I've now moved it. Is it focused? Can you see? I'm much happier with that. So I've got my organic side, if you want to call it that, my cloth side with the loopy knots. And then I've got my paper side, which is much flatter with my straight stitches. And I'm very pleased with that now, and I'm going to put it in my journal. How am I going to put it in my journal is my next question. I think I'm going to have a look first. I think that's going to, because this purple's picking up the purpley tones in the paper as well. Let me get it in shot so you can see. Quite happy with that. Do you know what I'm going to do? Excuse me one moment. I did not bring it with me, but it's not that far away. I don't want to stitch through this page because I don't know what's going to happen on the back. I'm going to take a little piece of masking tape, slightly shorter than my block. I'm tearing it roughly, you know, roughly. And I'm going to fold it in half, non-sticky sides together, obviously, otherwise it'll stick together. And it's going to stick to my fingers. And then I'm going to stick it onto the back. Like so. Only half of it, roughly along the edge. Like that. Do you see what I've done? And then, with it folded down, I can centre it on my page. Excuse me if my head pokes in because I can't see if it's centre. There we go. Like that. And now I can, it's like a little hinge, so I can flip it up. It's covered a tiny bit of my paper underneath, but you know, I don't mind that. I can see most of my paper. So there we go. That is, I'll bring it right up close and focus. Whoops, I'll make you wobble. That is week 1 of Wonky Wednesday. So I hope you will have a little play with that. I hope you'll go and look at Machtelt and what she does with paper. She's, you know, way better at it than what I am. But I had great fun. I'm glad I took those red stitches out. Next week there'll be another Wonky Wednesday with something else, don't know what yet. So meanwhile, thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to put it down so I can wave at you. I look forward to you joining me next time for more cloth tales. Bye bye.